Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's New Year's Day 2017, and I wanted to make a video for you talking about Debbie Cook. Now, if you're not familiar about Debbie Cook, she was the former captain of the Flag Land Base in Clearwater, Florida, which is the mecca of Scientology.
Debbie Cook, who was a high-ranking official for 17 years until she left the church staff in 2007.
She was one of the most prominent members in the entire world. Virtually any Scientologist who's been involved in it for very long has actually had FaceTime with her as a very respected person.
And the reason I'm doing this video on New Year's is because Debbie Cook sent out an email on New Year's Day in 2012 exposing Scientology and revealing about what was actually happening inside the organization.
Days ago, Debbie Cook sent an email to thousands of current and former church members in which she says she is still a completely dedicated believer in Scientology, which has produced stunning and miraculous results, but that the current president, David Miscavige, has accumulated more power within the church than the founder of the faith, L. Ron Hubbard, envisioned for any single successor.
And she sent this email out to thousands of people, and it made waves. The media picked up on the story about what she discussed in this email, and I wanted to share with it to you guys today just because I find it still relevant. And Debbie Cook's email also was one of the many things that led up to me finally leaving the Church of Scientology. But her email really spoke to me because she was the captain of Flag, and if anyone knew about what was going on inside the organization, it was someone like Debbie Cook. I wanted to kind of share my story alongside what Debbie Cook was talking about as well. Tony Ortega just did a blog post about this yesterday where he decoded a little bit of Debbie Cook's email and explained it to others about what Debbie was talking about. But I wanted to do a video myself because as a former Scientologist, I experienced a lot of the different things Debbie talks about in her email. So I kind of wanted to go through a couple of the different important parts of her email. So here we go. In the beginning of Debbie's email, she starts off by saying, "Dear friend, I am emailing you as a friend and fellow Scientologist. As we enter New Year, it is hoped that 2012 can be a year of great dissemination and a year of real progress up the bridge for all Scientologists." She wasn't declared a suppressive person at this time, so she was probably at least allowed to maybe communicate with other Scientologists, or I know she signed different agreements and different things, so she probably was still in good standing as of this email. Because later Debbie Cook did testify in court about being locked up in SP Hole. She was held in a trash can with the sign Lesbo on her, dumped water over her head. There was a lot of different things that Debbie Cook revealed in testimony in court. She gives a little bit of her background. Although I'm not in the Sea Org, I served in the Sea Org at Flag for 29 years. 17 of those years were as Captain FSO. I'm a trained auditor in CS as well as in OEC, FEBC, and DSCC. Try saying that 3 times over. She says she's completely dedicated to the technology of Dianetics and Scientology and the works of LRH. She's seen the most miraculous results in the application of LRH technology, and she absolutely knows it's worth fighting and keep it pure and unadulterated. So it's actually a good thing that Debbie started the email mentioning all of this, because to a Scientologist or to a former Scientologist, it at least legitimizes who she is. She's a Sea Org member who was the captain of Flag, 30 years. She did all these important courses. She was someone, who was dedicated to L. Ron Hubbard. And it's the right approach, because if she started off just saying, David Miscavige beats staff members, and people would have deleted the email. So it's good that she kind of mentioned that she's still in good standing. She says she's steadfastly refused to speak to any media. So she's kind of showing like, hey, like, you can trust me, you can listen to me. I'm still in good standing. So you're not talking to an SP, you're talking to someone who's just not serving in the Sea Org right now. She says she has very serious concerns about out KSW that I see permeating the Scientology religion. So what does that mean? Basically, she's saying that there's things going against L. Ron Hubbard policy. She says that LRH says in HL Policy Letter January 9, 1951, an essay on management. Drop no curtains between the organization and the public about anything, L. Ron Hubbard. So there shouldn't be all this hidden, secretive things going on between the organization and the public members. But she says, based on this policy, which is a good way to put it, because again, she's speaking to Scientologists. Based on this policy, I am communicating to you about some of the situations that we need to do something about within our religion and within our group. Actions that are not covered in policy or directly violate L. Ron Hubbard policy. Now, why is that important? Because when you are inside Scientology, you do everything according to source, and source is L. Ron Hubbard. You're always looking for that policy letter. So if you have a question about something, you're always going to find the policy about it, and you only do things that L. Ron Hubbard says to the T. Even in auditing procedures or when you're on course, you're looking up every word. What's misunderstood? What don't you understand? Because you have to understand, apply, and duplicate Scientology according to exactly as L. Ron Hubbard wrote it and as he intended it to be. So it's important that, you call out Scientology by using Scientology sometimes, and that's the only way you can kind of get through to Scientologists, is by using their own policies against them, so to speak. So this is what Debbie Cook is doing in her email. She says, actions that are either not covered in policy or directly violate LRH policy and tech include the extreme over-regging and fundraising activities that have become so much a part of nearly every Sea org and Class 5 org, as well as every OT committee. The fundraising is not covered anywhere in LRH policy. So this is important because even in my experience in the 2000s, when I was inside Scientology, they had a lot of different fundraising dinners, different barbecues, different things going on inside the organization. Debbie talks about a little bit further on in the email about some of the different things that organizations may do. Or it was an LRH policy where LRH would say, like, don't engage in babysitting, don't engage in different things like that, because they believe that you should be growing Scientology by using Scientology, not just by demanding donations. And not only were they just demanding donations for random things, they'd sometimes demand donations for the same thing over and over and over again. For example, with Luis Garcia, they got him to buy the cross on top of the Superpower building. So I'm not sure exactly how much he donated, but say, for example, that cost $5 million. Scientology would go and have regging sessions with other people and tell them that they can get the same cross. You're the one who donated for the cross on top of Superpower building, and get other people to donate, say, $5 million as well. So then there's 10 people who donated $50 million for something that they needed $5 million for, which may not have even been a $5 million thing. It may have only cost them $100,000 to put that cross up on top of the building. So there's all this over-regging. They're overly regging for these things. And then it's not like they say, oh, we already got the $5 million from someone else, like, we're going to give you your money back. No, it goes all into like their reserves, because it's all about money. It's all about building buildings and just amassing as much money as they could. Said hardworking CR members and the dedicated staff aren't choosing to do these actions, nor the OTs. They're, your auditor is going to be regging you. People that aren't, it's not part of their post. So we're engaging in these fundraising activities. One big thing that Debbie talks about in her email right here is the IAS, which is the International Association of Scientologists. Now, she says here, the IAS was created unbeknownst to LRH in 1984 by Mark Yeager and David Miscavige. This was supposed to be based on LRH policies on the subject of memberships in the HASI, which was the former membership group. However, the IAS is nothing like the membership system described by LRH, which only has 2 memberships and is covered in ACO Policy Letter March 22, 1965, Current Promotion or Program Summary Membership Rundown, and states there are 2 memberships. So LRH says that there's an international annual membership and gives it a cost at £10 sterling or $30 US, and he also lists a lifetime membership which is priced at $75 US. There are no other memberships or statuses approved or known to LRH. Furthermore, membership monies are supposed to go directly to the org where the membership is signed up, and the money used for dissemination by that org in that area. And that's covered in ACO Policy Letter September 1st, 1965 Membership Policies. So what's that have to do with anything, really? Okay, so what's happening in the organizations now, like what happened to me as a former member, I was probably regged for 3 or 4 annual memberships were $500 a piece. And then on top of that, I also bought a $5,000 lifetime membership, which was near the end of my time in Scientology, which coincidentally, of course, I become a lifetime member and then I leave the Church of Scientology. Like, it's so weird. But that's what happened. Now, David Miscavige has now implemented all these random IAS levels that obviously don't exist according to the policy letters. So there's, patron meritorious with honors, diamond, legion status, such and such for a few $1,000,000. There's all these different levels that go from $500, which of course no one just has a $500 membership. You have to get different memberships. As you're going up the bridge, they require you to have a different status in the IAS. So for example, if you want to go clear, you have to be a patron in order to be able to do your auditing to become clear. For your OT levels, you may have to be a different higher up status in the IAS. So that's what the church is currently doing as a way to kind of extort money out of people. Hey, if you want to do these courses, great, but you have to also donate to the IAS. You have to donate to, at the time, now it's open, but you had to donate to Superpower Building. You had to donate towards these different other ideal orgs, and they had all these forced donations. So this is all new under David Miscavige. And of course, as someone who was in the church, I saw all this fundraising going on. It's like, hey, this is crazy. They may think it's normal that there's all these different membership levels, but really, Scientology, according to L. Ron Hubbard, wasn't even supposed to be this way. Now, do I believe in Scientology? Do I believe in independent Scientology? No. And that's a disclaimer, because a lot of people said that in my first movie. People were saying, oh, you said that the Church of Scientology could be reformed, or maybe it could be one day. I was newly out of the church. It was 2012. I probably was really out in 2013, so I probably only had a little bit of time to kind of decompress, and I made this movie. And my point, I didn't really say it in this way, but what I was trying to say was, you could believe in anything you want in this world. You have the free right to believe in aliens, you have the right to believe in Buddha, whatever you want to believe in, you have the free right to believe in that. And Scientology always likes to be like, we're being discriminated against because we're a religion, and you guys are always, out to get us and that sort of thing. And it's like, no, we're not against maybe you doing auditing or whatever. Yes, there's many people who can talk about the flaws in auditing or in the training or with L. Ron Hubbard. Okay, we all know that there is a lot of corrupt things that happened in the early days of Scientology too. So even though I'm reading some of these policy letters of L. Ron Hubbard, it's just to put Scientology in on the Scientologists, to show them that they're hypocrites across all levels, right? But you can practice what you want, but just don't be abusing and hurting your members. Don't be ripping off people. Don't be scamming others, right? So she says here that membership monies are held as int reserves, which is international base, and have grown into well in excess of $1 billion. Now they're saying it's about $3 billion. Only a tiny fraction has ever been spent in violation of the policy above. Only the interest earned from the holdings have been used very sparingly to fund projects through grants. So she says here, how many ads have you seen disseminating Scientology, Dianetics, or Scientology affiliated programs on TV, heard on the radio, seen in newspapers? She says she hasn't seen one in 4 years. I've lived in San Antonio, Texas, the 7th largest city in the U.S. How many have you seen? This happened to me. I was inside the church, and the IAS would come, and they would say, we're going to run a Super Bowl commercial, and we're going to boom Dianetics just like it boomed in the 70s or in the 80s or whenever that big Dianetics boom happened. They were trying to recreate that, and in order to recreate that, we need to have the Super Bowl commercial so we can get, the millions of people who are just everyday Americans who don't know anything about Scientology can see this powerful commercial to be a part of Scientology and show them what we're doing in the world and get more people in, and then more people are going to start joining Scientology, and we're just going to create this big Scientology boom, and we're going to clear the planet, right? So give money to the IAS so we can buy the commercial. But like I said before, they can raise millions of dollars in excess of what the commercial even costs. And they probably don't even need a commercial to begin with, right? So she says here, donating anything more than a lifetime membership is not based on L. Ron Hubbard policy. So now talking about the ideal orgs. New org buildings. LRH never directed the purchase of opulent building or the posh renovations or furnishings for every org. So it says here, in the ideal org, which is what this program has been called, it says, nowhere in it you will find $20 million buildings or even reference to the poshness of org premises at all as part of LRH's description of an ideal org. LRH says in the policy letter that an ideal org would be clean and attractive enough not to repel its public. Okay, so David Miscavige, why are you regging people for millions and millions of dollars for these buildings? The founder of the church doesn't say any big buildings, and what happens? They stay empty. So that's another thing too. If you're a Scientologist, a former member, whatever, you see these ideal orgs sitting there empty. There's no one in the parking lot, no one in the course rooms, no one walking around. They're building these huge buildings and they don't even go to use, and these people are getting bankrupted in the process. So kind of like what I was mentioning before, Debbie Cook is mentioning here. Get rid of distractions from Scientology in your org, babysitting or raffle tickets and such nonsense. If the org slums, don't engage in fundraising or selling postcards or borrowing money. Just make more income with Scientology. It's a sign of very poor management, David Miscavige, to seek extraordinary solutions for finance outside of Scientology. It's always failed. LRH also says, so I can tell you from experience that org solvency lies in more Scientology, not patented combs or fundraising barbecues. And she says the point is that Scientology OTs need to be training, auditing, and disseminating to raw public, not regging each other or holding internal fundraisers. So there was a ton of that happening inside of Scientology. There was countless of these fundraising events that weren't considered on Scientology policy. So just kind of interesting there. Even L. Ron Hubbard said, don't be fundraising. And he was the man who said, if you want to make $1 million, start a religion sort of thing. So it doesn't really make sense. Okay, outtake. Over the last few years, we've seen literally hundreds and hundreds of people who are validated as clear using the CCRD and developed by LRH now being told they are not clear. This includes hundreds of OTs who are then put onto NED, New Aerodynamics, as a handling. LRH clearly forbids any Dynamics to be run on OTs, and HCOB Dynamics forbidden on OTs. This is outtech. This entire technical handling was directed personally by COB RTC and was done on thousands of OTs. But it was based not on an LRH HCO bulletin, but rather based on a single CS instruction where LRH CS 1 pre-OT who had not achieved the state of clear but was mid-OT 3 and not making it. LRH directed a solo handling, blah, 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 blah. So it's all technical stuff. So basically, if you're a Scientologist, and say you reach the state of clear, which is on the bridge to freedom, you no longer have your reactive mind. Scientology would tell you, we're going to have to redo, we're going to have to redo some of your auditing. We're going to have to redo, they put you on the CCRD, Clear Certainty Rundown. They say you're no longer clear. You have to redo these different programs and courses. You have to redo tiers and objectives, blah, blah, blah. So basically, what does that mean in English? Money. You're redoing all these courses that you already did because they say you're not clear because they recreate it from one little, maybe tiny little thing in the program that said, oh, you have to do it this way or that way. And then they get these people, instead of saying like, hey, maybe we should just give them these services for free, or, because they just paid for them. No, even though it's their mistake. No, we're going to make them pay to redo these services over and over and over again, which means money, money, money. She says, then there have been the fast grades at Flag that no other org has. How can it be that Flag has been delivering grades differently to the rest of the world for the last 3 years? Whatever the problem is, the fact that having fast grades at Flag creates a hidden data line, and it's a high crime and the subject of an entire policy letter called HCO Policy Letter Technical Degrades, which LRH has placed at the start of every Scientology course. So this also is what happened. When I was being regged for the grades at Flag, the reason they were trying to get me to go to Flag to do the grades were you can do the grades faster. So the intensives were $7,600 for 12 and a half hours at Flag, if my memory serves me correct. So at Celebrity Center, there were 3,200 or 3,600, I believe. It was between 3,200 and 3,600 for 12 and a half hours of the auditing. So they're saying if you go to Flag and pay for the Flag intensives of auditing, you're going to be able to get through the grades fast. So what they were doing, let's see if Debbie mentions it here. Basically what they were saying was they would boast as to the speed of delivery in session. I don't know if Debbie mentions it in the email here. I thought I read it. So they would say, this is against L. Ron Hubbard policy too, by boasting to the speed of the delivery. Like, I put in grade 0 in 3 minutes, right? So there was a lot of that. Like, they would show me in the regging sessions, like, look, Billy Bob was able to do grade 0 in 2 hours. So if you think if there's grade 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're going to be able to get through those 5 grades in maybe 1 or 2 intensives of auditing. So you're maybe paying $15,000 for your grades versus doing like the normal grades that aren't at Flag. You're doing the normal ones that cost $3,600, but you may need to do 20 intensives of the auditing or something, so it's actually going to cost you more money. But they always find a way to say, like, the auditing was done incorrectly, or, you know, there's always going to be some reason. It's not really going to ever cost you 1 or 2 intensives of auditing, right? There's always going to be some sort of thing going on. This is also what she talks about here. Solo NOTS auditors are also being made to get their objectives from a Class 9 auditor at great expense, as they're not being allowed to co-audit. So when you're very high up the bridge, you can only partner with someone to do like the objectives who are also at that same level. But now it's saying here that they could only get them from a Class 9 auditor, which probably costs $12,000 for the 12 hours of auditing. $1,000 an hour to do those procedures, right? So there's always some way to get money. They have to redo their Purif and do a long objectives program. There's always some way that they get money out of you. Expensive handling. Hey everyone, so my other camera died, so I'm going to be filming on my phone for the rest of the video. So basically Debbie Cook starts talking about the command structure of Scientology. So she says here, LRH left us with a complex and balanced command structure. And then she goes on to say, you may have wondered, where is Heber, the president of the church? What about Ray Midoff, senior CS International, the one that LRH personally turned over the upper OT levels to? How about Norman Starkey, LRH's trustee? What happened to Galame, executive director international? And Mark Yeager, the WDC chairman? What happened to the other international management executives that you've seen at events over the years? She says, the truth is I've spent weeks working in the empty international management building at INT. Empty because everyone had been removed from post. When I first went up lines, I was briefed extensively by David Miscavige about how bad all of them were and how they had done many things that were very discreditable. This seemed to explain the fact that the entirety of the Watchdog Committee no longer existed. So she kind of speaks about that for a while. There were hundreds and hundreds of unanswered letters and requests for help from org staff. So she says David Miscavige has now become the leader of the Scientology religion, yet what LRH left behind was a huge structure to properly manage all aspects of the Scientology religion. He put a complete and brilliant organizational structure there. She said there was never supposed to be a leader other than LRH himself as the goal maker for our group. I just think that's kind of interesting. Then David Miscavige comes into power, and then all of a sudden all the executives and other people start disappearing. Interesting. She says the only other thing you can do is send this email to as many others as you can, even if you can do it anonymously. Keep the email amongst us, the Scientologists. The media have no place in this. You may have wondered why I've not written a KR and gone about my business. The answer is I have. There's no longer anyone to send that KR to, which is a knowledge report to report about what sort of wrongdoing is actually going on. She says, I'm not trying to do anything other than affect a change in Sarah's off-policy actions. My husband and I have most of our family and friends in Scientology. She says she's supported LRH. We all have a stake in it. You have a very simple obligation to LRH. Don't participate in anything off policy. Let others know that they should not either. If every person who reads this email does nothing more than step back from off policy actions, we would have changed direction. If we took all the energy and directed it into auditing, training, and raw public dissemination, we would be winning. And that's what I wish for you and all of us as we ring in this new year. ARC, Affinity, Reality, and Communication, Debbie Cook. So what does that mean to us in 2017? It means that over the last 5 years, this has continued to happen. There is continuous over fundraising. There's continuous abuse. There are executives locked up in the hole. Where is Shelley Miscavige? I mean, there's so many unanswered questions, and they're continuing this abuse of parishioners and others. And I am going to do all that I can in 2017 to do what Debbie Cook said in this email. Just keep, informing others, spreading the message, and letting others know about what's really going on inside this organization, because it's criminal and it has to be stopped. So as we start January 2017, I hope that, we can, reflect on Debbie Cook's email if you are a Scientologist and think, is this according to what L. Ron Hubbard wanted? Is this the church that I signed up for? And don't be afraid to look at both sides, because, Scientology obviously doesn't want you to look at the internet. They think everything's en theta and you're looking at all this critical stuff that's not true. Well, this is not just me saying it. I didn't write this email. Debbie Cook wrote this email. You know, I told my personal story on my channel, but thousands of others have also spoken up and said their truth as well. So, you know, you have to kind of maybe look at both sides of the picture. And, you know, they don't want you doing that about Scientology, maybe about other things. They want you to look at the other side, but not about Scientology. But think about it. Why don't they want you to look at the other side? Why don't they want you wondering what's going on? And why won't they tell you where these executives are, for example? So I hope you guys have a great new year. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and make more videos for you guys. Thanks so much.